Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to Diz Connected, an unofficial Disney podcast of magical proportions. I'm Whit Laxon, your Disney enthusiast host, and coming up...
Regardless of whether you read the book or not, this is not a good movie.
Don't test her through our review of Disney's A Wrinkle in Time. I thought visually it worked pretty well.
For the most part, yeah.
From Mrs. Who to Mrs. Witch to Mrs. What's-It, here are our thoughts on the fantasy-filled blockbuster.
Giant Oprah was cool.
And stick around for our reactions to Disney's latest trailer releases. Hey guys, what's up? It's Whit, back for another episode of Diz Connected, and joining me today, as always, via Skype, is my friend and fellow Disney enthusiast, Katie Carter. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Whit.
So, Katie, we have several things to talk about today. We're going to be reviewing A Wrinkle in Time, and we'll hit some Disney download news topics, of course, as always. Going to talk about all these new trailers that have been dropping. It's like every day a new movie trailer coming out, and a few other things too, so stick around for that. But are you ready to do this, Katie?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it. Well, A Wrinkle in Time is the latest live-action movie from the Walt Disney Company. It's got a big cast of notable figures, including the Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling, Chris Pine, and in the starring role, a newcomer, Storm Reed. This movie, there was a lot of hype, Katie. Directed by Ava DuVernay, Oscar nominated. The first time, what was the statistic there? It was a $100 million movie, the first time an African-American female, or was it a female in general?
I believe African-American female. First time someone has directed a film with a budget of $100 million.
Yeah.
You know, breaking a lot of ground with diversity with this movie for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we both saw this, of course. So, Katie, why don't you set up the story? It's based on a book, right?
It's based on a book that was published in the early 60s. It revolves around a young girl named Meg Murray. She's not popular at school. She's very smart, but she's kind of troubled. And at the start of this story, her father has actually vanished. He's been gone for several years, and he's a physicist who is investigating this way to travel through time and space. So toward the beginning of this story, she, along with her adopted younger brother, Charles Wallace, comes into contact with these three beings. There's Mrs. Who, Mrs. What's-It, and Mrs. Witch. And they heard a call out in the universe that they believe is their father. So they promised to help them go on this journey to other planets and find their father. But there's also something else going on. There's this darkness that is taking over different planets. So in addition to finding their father, they're also having to battle this dark entity that is kind of swallowing up all of these planets and all of the citizens. So that's probably the most simplistic I can get in terms of summarizing the story. I have read the book. I read it when I was in elementary school, actually, for the first time, and I did not like it then. With this movie coming out, I decided last year I really needed to reread it, so I did. I enjoyed it a little bit more, but I kind of came away with, how are they going to film this story? This is almost unfilmable.
Right.
And I guess that kind of leads into our opinions on the film version.
Let's jump into our review/Diz discussion here. And as far as my experience with the book, haven't read it. I just remember it being in a lot of my classrooms in elementary school, and I just never picked it up off the shelf and read it. So yeah, I can't comment on that. I still feel like even though I don't know the context there, this did not translate well.
It didn't. I mean, I think regardless of whether you read the book or not, this is not a good movie. At the same time, you know, thinking back on it, I just think it's so geared toward children specifically. I think that young kids will connect with it in ways, and it does have a message that I think comes through pretty nicely toward the end of the movie. But just in general, in terms of story and acting and all of that, it's just not it's just not good.
No. I was very disappointed, yeah. And I think I texted you. I can applaud Disney for the diversity that they are supporting with this film, but I can't get behind a movie that's still not very good, and that's the case here. So it's a little awkward. It is. Ugh.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just one of those things, like, while I was watching it, I was like, I'm really not enjoying any of this pretty much, except for Giant Oprah. I thought Giant Oprah was cool.
Yeah.
And I really hated to use this term too, and that's why I struggled so much with my feelings for this movie, because I really wanted to like it at least a little bit more than I did. But it just came off as kind of campy at times in terms of the story and the effects. There's a lot of CGI and the acting. But I think that also kind of goes back around to, I think it will appeal so much to children because everything is done rather bluntly. Like when I think back to, there's like a conversation between two teachers toward the beginning of the film, and Charles Wallace, who is the younger brother, is listening to them talk about him and his father. And I was like, this is like really odd. Like they're speaking very, very bluntly about this young child's father and all these things that are wrong with him. And that just, the conversation didn't feel natural. There's this popular girl who's played by Rowan Blanchard. There's like literally a sign on her wall that says like no carbs, no sugar, no cheating, blah, blah, blah. Like they're literally spelling things out for you. But I think that's why for adults, it's just kind of hard to get into. But for kids, they'll maybe more connect to it because that's the kind of language that they will understand better and be able to comprehend better. Because this is a story with deeper themes. And I think a lot of that was diluted from the book. The book does have a lot of Christian themes that I don't think translate as well to the film, but it does have some complexity under the surface. So I think being able to speak to kids in that way helps them understand it. It's just not one of those family movies that it's like, oh, it's good for kids, but it has things for adults too. I really think this is like just for kids.
Yeah. At the same time, though, it's not something that's completely dumbed down as far as the story being simple. Like, it's a complex story going on here.
Yeah.
On your point, it's not like a Pixar movie, though. Not at all. Like, there's no emotional element for the adults to enjoy, no, like, adult humor really there. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
I mean, there are a few nice emotional moments between the father, Chris Pine, and the daughter, played by Storm Reed. They were nice by themselves.
Yeah.
I think because the rest of the movie is so messy, though, that overall they don't connect as well as they should. I do really like the scene, spoiler alert, where she does find her father. I think that was just shot beautifully. The way they were silhouetted against the backdrop and just the emotional connection between the actors there was very nice. But yeah, and just some things with the direction too.
I thought visually it worked pretty well.
For the most part, yeah. The one thing that kind of annoyed me, and I love Ava. I've seen her other movies. I think she's a fantastic filmmaker. But there were just little things like she kept doing, and I forget the technical term for the camera move, but she would push in and zoom in for a close-up. Like multiple times, and I feel like that's something that you do like once for like a really important moment, and that just like kept happening, and I was like, why does she keep going for this shot? It's really weird. Just kind of like things like that. I was like, this isn't working.
Right. I would say what it felt like to me, and this is how I described it to my friends after we left the theater. I told them that felt like being a kid and making up a story in the backyard with my cousins, and the story's not really going anywhere. We're just making it up as we go. That's pretty much what I have to say about it, other than Jennifer Lee. Are we ready to talk about Jennifer Lee?
I just don't think that you can pin that much of this on her.
No.
I don't know.
Okay, but I texted you right when I got out, and I said, Disney, please stop letting Jennifer Lee write your screenplays, because Jennifer Lee, the writer of Frozen, or the co-writer, I think, was she the co-writer on that or the main one?
Well, didn't she direct it, though?
She did direct Frozen, yes.
Okay.
Jennifer Lee has written the screenplay for A Wrinkle in Time. She also did the story for Zootopia. She did the screenplay for Frozen, of course, and then also Wreck-It Ralph. A few of those, I think she's had some hits. Frozen would be an example where it was a miss for me. And this would be another miss. I think that you talked about the emotional connection between the dad and the daughter, Chris Pine and Storm Reed there. Yeah, that worked, but the brother and sister connection didn't do it for me. And that made me think of Anna and Elsa. By the way, if you want to hear my Frozen rant, you can go find the podcast we did where I ranted the whole time about Frozen. I don't know. Her dialogue for this was really weak, but it just, it didn't work.
It was odd. It felt odd.
Yeah.
You have to remember the book was published in the 60s, and this takes place in modern day.
Right.
So they are having to update some elements. And I think maybe that's another thing that felt weird is, when you think, okay, the 60s, there isn't all of as much technology available, compared to what we have now. So elements of the story, I think, worked better envisioning it in that time period than in this time period.
They could have made it not modern day, I guess. So.
They could have, but they didn't.
But then the diversity might not have been there so
and I mean,
much.
that is the wonderful thing about this movie is, in front of and behind the camera, there's such a diverse cast and crew. And I think a lot of that goes back to the director, Ava DuVernay. She's just all about getting a diverse group of people involved in her films. And Time Magazine put out a really interesting article about the making of this film a few weeks ago. And she talked about how the three Mrs. W, she wanted someone with brown skin, someone with white skin, and someone who was something in between. So, we have Reese Witherspoon, Oprah Winfrey, and Mindy Kaling. And Meg is part of a mixed family.
Right.
And Meg in this movie is a young black girl. I think that's going to be really great for a lot of young girls to see on screen. So that's why I'm hesitant to say, don't go see this movie.
That's where it's so hard because it's like I want to support the diversity, but I also can't say oh, this is such a great movie because it's not.
Right. It's not.
So I compared this actually to The Giver, which is another movie that was booked to screen a few years ago. I like The Giver, but it didn't translate well. And that's kind of what this felt like. It was like they tried to promote certain scenes in the trailers to make it look like one thing when it wasn't so much. I mean, my goodness, I didn't know that it was going to be kind of this slow paced and that sort of thing. The trailer made it seem very epic and it was epic, but just action packed even maybe.
Well, that's the thing is that the book is not that action packed. It's not fast paced, and it deals in a lot of abstract ideals instead of, physical action. And that's one of the reasons why I finished reading it and I was like, I don't know how this is going to work as a movie. And it really just doesn't, at least in the way that they did it here. And maybe it's just not meant to. I mean, there are some stories that I absolutely love, some of my favorite stories, and they've had film adaptations, and I've either just not liked the film or just kind of felt average about it. It's just one of those things. I don't know.
The cast, Oprah's character is Oprah. I mean, who else would have played that, honestly?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's literally Oprah.
And Reese Witherspoon is charming as always. She's in a great place in her career. She can afford to do something like this right now. Let's see, Mindy Kaling, really nice. Although her character, it's hard to deal with the way that her character speaks, but
her whole thing with her character basically is that she, instead of using her own language, she pulls from quotes from other people throughout history and throughout the world. And so with this film taking place in contemporary times, she actually pulls from more contemporary references. And there's this part toward the end of the movie where she says, "Tomorrow there'll be more of us." And I was in the back of my head, oh, like Hamilton. And then after each thing she says, she gives the attribution. So she was Miranda, American. And I was it was Hamilton.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite part.
I bet you did like that part. Yeah.
I like that part.
Yeah. Oh, one last point from me. The soundtrack for this is really cool, but it was also a little strange to hear so much modern music throughout this movie at just the most random places. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. The music wasn't bad, but it just, where they put it in the film didn't work with what was happening on screen at all.
Yeah. Again, I support it for the diversity, but I'm not going to recommend it necessarily as like this great movie that you need to rush out and see. Take the kids, though. Take the kids and see what
Yeah.
they think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So see it / skip it for me. Yeah.
I agree with that.
All right, cool. Well, let's get on to some of our news topics now. And oh my word, it's been trailer after trailer. The Avengers Infinity War, that's where we begin today. That's the most recent trailer that's dropped as of the time we're recording this. We have a new release date for this movie, April 27th, which is different from May 4th. Now, this was really confusing, but I think we both kind of think that it was because they didn't want it to be so close to Solo releasing, or I've also read that they didn't want the foreign release dates, that are sooner. They didn't want there to be any spoilers online. But I just don't appreciate summer movie season starting on April 27th. I need that to begin the first weekend of May, like every other year of my life.
Marvel's going to do what Marvel's going to do, and people are still going to rush out and see it. But I don't know. I'm just used to like first weekend in May, it's like the big new Marvel movie usually is what kicks off summer movie season, it seems like. So it's kind of weird. And like the way that they announced it on Twitter, it was like this conversation on Twitter between the Marvel account and Robert Downey Jr. and him being like, oh, but can you release it like a little bit sooner? And they were like, oh, anything for you. Okay, here's the new release date.
Yep. But hey, now it's only like a month away, and they've just put out this trailer that got me even more excited. I mean, I'm out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I was about to say, are you even going to see this?
I am absolutely going to see the Avengers, of course.
You haven't seen any of the other recent movies.
I don't care. I got to see this one. And the highlight for me was at the very end when Peter Parker is introducing himself to Doctor Strange, even though I haven't seen Doctor Strange. But I love that part.
You haven't even seen half the movies leading up to this. How are you?
Well, I'm going to binge watch before it comes out.
Okay.
But maybe I should ask you, how excited did this trailer make you feel?
I'm pretty excited, actually, now that we're getting closer. And I really have been more into Marvel recently. I think phase 2 of their films, which were the films leading up to Avengers 2, were not good, and that was when I really started to lose interest. But recently with movies like Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming and, of course, Black Panther, I think they've just had such a consistently good run leading up to Infinity War that, yeah, I am more excited. At the same time, I don't see how this can possibly be a good movie. How is it not going to be a mess when you're pulling tons and tons of characters from all these different films and cramming them into 2 to 2.5 hours? I'm definitely expecting to be entertained, and I think that I'll enjoy it for what it is. But I think especially like coming off of Black Panther, the story is not going to be anywhere near that level.
I wasn't a huge fan of the other 2 Avengers movies.
Oh, me neither.
So,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping that they do improve the story here, because both of those kind of followed the exact same formula. And it's like, you can only have the sky beam and the alien with his robot minions taking over a city so many times.
Yep.
But Thanos is going to be the villain in this, and all of the Marvel movies recently have kind of been dropping these little scenes and things leading up to his introduction in this film. And he's always been such a huge presence in the comics, so it's definitely a big deal. And I just hope that the film lives up to that, because this is a really big villain to have in this movie.
To me, it also just feels like we're getting close to the end of this era of Marvel movies and the Avengers. I mean, there's another one coming out still, but it's coming to an end.
Yeah. I mean, they've definitely been introducing a lot of new heroes that could take the place of the old ones as they kind of phase them out. But yeah, it is crazy to think about. And I was just thinking how this year marks 10 years since the release of the first Iron Man movie. Mm-hmm. Wow, like 10 years ago, who would have thought that Marvel would have been able to build such an expansive cinematic universe? It's pretty incredible, and it's something that no other studio has ever done before. So I definitely applaud them for that, even though I don't agree with all of the choices that they've made or have liked all of the films. It's really an impressive legacy. So it's very fitting that this movie is coming out, pretty much on like the 10-year anniversary of Marvel Studios.
Yep. Another trailer we got recently, Christopher Robin. This movie comes out in August 3rd. Aw, Katie, it just made me feel so happy. Aw, I love Winnie the Pooh, and I was very anxious to see how they would be doing this. Would they go the route of like the Smurfs or Alvin and the Chipmunks? That does not appear to be the case. I'm so excited. This looks so cute, but also just so heartwarming and like good. Oh, so ready, so excited.
I hope it's good. Yeah, I guess when I watched the trailer, I didn't know too much about it going in either. Like as far as the cast, I knew that Ewan McGregor was going to be in it and Haley Atwell, and I'm really big fans of both of them. But then all these other faces were popping up, like Mark Gatiss, and that made me excited. Definitely heartwarming, but maybe also a little sad. Because the whole story is about Christopher Robin is grown up now, and he's in this place in his life where he's maybe not as happy as he was when he was a child. So I guess Winnie the Pooh is coming back into his life to help, restore some of that joy. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a clever and fun way to update the story, I think, too. When Pooh talked at the end.
Oh, that got me.
I don't know what I was thinking. I was just not expecting it to be the same voice that we're so familiar with.
Yeah.
So when he talked, I was like, oh, it is him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Jim Cummings. He's still there. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I loved Winnie the Pooh so much. I either thought I was Andy from Toy Story or Christopher Robin when I was a kid. So that just goes to tell you. Loved Winnie the Pooh, and this is very exciting. And as far as the design of Pooh, it's different, but I read where the director said he really wanted it to look like the stuffed animals that the real-life Christopher Robin played with. And so with that being said, I'm good. I'm good with how it looks. It does look like a real kind of old stuffed bear, and that's what Pooh is. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And as soon as I saw it, I recognized that was the choice that they were making. I think that with that style, you don't get as much character. It's not like, to compare it with Paddington, which of course Paddington is supposed to be a real bear, not a stuffed bear, but still like that's a character that has a lot of personality and animation in the face. And
it's like Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I guess. But
yeah.
Hopefully better than that, hopefully. Just as exciting, Mary Poppins Returns. This trailer dropped on Oscar night. We're going to talk about the Academy Awards in a bit, but yeah, this was exciting. Is this what you saw at D23?
The footage they showed at D23, there wasn't any dialogue in it except for one snippet that they showed at the end that was not in this trailer, actually.
Ooh.
But it was just all like scenes put to music. And yeah, I was watching, I was like, oh, I saw this already. My big takeaway from what I saw at D23 was this beautiful shot of Lin-Manuel's character reeling in the kite, and you look up at the clouds and you see the silhouette of Mary Poppins descending from the clouds. And it's a beautiful shot. But yeah, I already saw that, so I guess I'll just have to keep waiting for new things.
Yeah, and we did get that one line from Emily Blunt at the end, and she does sound like Julie Andrews. So it's exciting, and I cannot wait to see more. We've got a while, though, Christmas of this year, so. And Lin-Manuel, though, I don't know if Disney told him he could say it, but on the Oscars red carpet coverage, he was like, yeah, we're dropping the Mary Poppins Returns trailer. And I was like, oh, was he supposed to do that?
Yeah, he was just like talking about his upcoming projects or something. He's just like, yeah, like the trailer's going to come on like later on tonight. And I was like, what?
Yep. And I barely remember this trailer because it's been just a little bit longer. Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, of course. That's coming out in November. That's the next big Disney animation release. And my favorite part is when they're in this child's iPad game. And I identified with this because my nieces play these little games on their iPads. Mm-hmm. And they're so simple, but this little girl is feeding this rabbit some pancakes. And Ralph just starts feeding him all these pancakes, and the rabbit explodes, and then the baby just has this reaction. And the internet went wild because the baby looks like baby Moana, which is true. So, yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah. But yeah, what'd you think of the Wreck-It Ralph 2 trailer?
I'm just kind of worried about this movie, honestly.
What?
Yeah, all of the internet references, the more I think about it, the more I think, the way that things change so quickly now online.
It's gonna
in
date
a few
it.
years, it's gonna date so fast. Whereas, you look at the first Wreck-It Ralph, it draws from video game characters from all these different eras and, very classic characters that I think will just always, be in our pop culture knowledge. So I think that's why that film is going to be more timeless. Whereas this one, I'm just like, I don't know. They've got like eBay in there and like BuzzFeed references and clickbaity articles, and thinking back to what we saw at D23 Expo when they go to like ohmydisney.com. Like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm worried.
Well, when I see that Disney princess scene, I probably won't care about that. I'm so jealous that you've seen it. Okay.
Every once in a while I think about that scene and I'm like, I can't believe that exists, but I'm so glad that it does.
Yeah. Continuing on with movie news, and this is in your area of expertise, Star Wars. It has been announced that Jon Favreau is going to produce and direct a series for Disney's streaming service, so a Star Wars series.
Star Wars live action series.
Star Wars live action series, yes. That's what's different about this. Oh, and your show ended, right?
Star Wars Rebels has officially concluded as of a couple weeks ago. Man, I just have to say real quick, if you love Star Wars and you have not been watching Rebels, you have messed up and you need to go watch it right now, because the last several episodes, just some of the best things I've ever seen come out of Star Wars, and just can't wait to see what Dave Filoni is doing next for Star Wars animation for Disney.
Gotcha. Okay. But this will be the first live action series of Star Wars that Jon Favreau will be doing. I've been hearing rumors, and I'm sure you have too, for years about a Star Wars TV show. So it's finally happening.
Yeah, no, somebody actually posted the article from 2005 on Twitter the other day about the interview with George Lucas when he was talking about this. And I was like, I remember that. And I remember being
Me
so
too.
hyped. Star Wars is coming and it's going to be a live action show and it's going to be awesome. And that was 12 years ago, and we're still waiting for it.
Yeah. Well, it's not that same series, of course, but...
No, but it's happening.
There were some interesting articles, though, that I saw and tweets about how... And you actually... I don't know if this made it into our last podcast, but we were talking about how there was going to be another series of Star Wars movies with Game of Thrones writers or something. And you talked about how there needed to be some more diversity behind the camera for Star Wars. And it was like, oh, another white man in Jon Favreau. The announcement was made on International Women's Day, which just made it even better, of course. So what are your thoughts, Katie? What are your thoughts?
First of all, this has nothing... I have nothing against Jon Favreau. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. I really do, and I'm really excited to see what he comes up with for this series, because all the films I've seen him act in and direct, and I think he's a great filmmaker. I really do. But me and a lot of other people in the Star Wars fandom, after they made that announcement about the Game of Thrones creators, were kind of like, okay, that's cool, but when are you going to start getting more diversity behind the camera? Because that's such a hot topic of conversation now, and I feel like one of the biggest movie studios in the world needs to be getting on that. And they've established this world, and it's been very successful. And okay, you've established the story and the characters for the movies and all of that. You're doing very well. Now let's try and explore what other voices could bring to the franchise. And especially announcing that on International Women's Day, that was so tone deaf. Whoever made that decision to make that announcement, you messed up. I'm sorry, but oh man.
Moving on to the Oscars, though, Katie. Oh my word, it happened. Well, first of all, Coco won Best Animated Feature. We knew that was coming, but it also won Best Original Song for Remember Me. We wanted that to happen so bad.
I was so stressed about that. When they announced it, I actually screamed.
I mean, what a relief.
Yeah, it was such relief.
It was so exciting. That was the most exciting moment of the night for me. The other awards, I didn't get as excited as I did about that one. So
Yeah, same.
so happy. The performance I thought was a little underwhelming. I don't know what happened there. What'd you think of the performance? I mean, it was very colorful and diverse since we're on the subject of diversity, but the singing and like the styling of it all, I wasn't there for it. I couldn't do it. So fell flat on that level for me.
I mean, I didn't have any issues with it. I guess that the singing was kind of rough in the first part where they were doing more of the acoustic version, and then they transitioned into the pop version. I mean, I guess maybe they should have just stuck with one or the other. I don't know. I thought it was fine though.
You should say this because you're the one who tweeted it, but like, or you posted it. But what did you say about Greatest Showman? You're like, it can die or something.
I think was it like the beginning of the day. I said something like, "Happy Oscar Sunday. I hope the Greatest Showman dies," or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual. So congratulations to Coco and Pixar. Well deserved. And that's all that Disney won that night. But Glenn Keane won for Best Animated Short with Kobe Bryant for Dear Basketball, I think it's called. And I was so happy to see Glenn Keane up there because Ariel's my favorite princess and he animated Ariel among other favorite Disney characters of mine. So yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a controversial win actually, but I was excited to see Glenn Keane up there for sure.
Yes.
And I mean, his animation is just beautiful.
Now let's talk about some performing / theater / Broadway news. First of all, Beauty and the Beast coming to the Hollywood Bowl like The Little Mermaid was there a few years ago. I mean, I still am a little upset that I didn't get to go see Jodie Benson perform at the Hollywood Bowl for that. Anyway, Zooey Deschanel is going to be Belle, Taye Diggs as Gaston, Rebel Wilson as LeFou, Kelsey Grammer as Lumiere, Jane Krasowski as Mrs. Potts, and Anthony Evans from The Voice, I believe, is going to be the Beast. But yeah, and again, I'm going to refer to one of your tweets or something where you said, if Angela Lansbury came out, you'd buy a plane ticket right there with you. Right there with you.
I would so be there. Like, that would be everything. As it is, with no original cast members in it, I'm kind of like it would be cool to see if I was there, but I'm not gonna rush to make it happen.
They could at least like have them come out like Jodie Benson did, even if they don't sing or anything. I need them to come out. Back to Angela Lansbury. Remember when she came out? I mean, of course you remember, but she came out for the Blu-ray release for like some sort of event they were having 2 years ago, I want to say. And she sang Beauty and the Beast, Alan Menken on the piano. Brought me to tears. So, and I'm sure she's still got it. If she's going to be in Mary Poppins Returns.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
She's still got it. But yeah, I mean, there will be videos of this on YouTube like there were for Little Mermaid, I'm sure. So I'll get to check it out that way. And once that gets here, we'll be able to give our thoughts on that. That's this summer, though, May 25th and 26th. So only 2 days.
That's when Solo comes out.
Oh, never mind. Katie won't care.
Conflict. Sorry, guys.
Oh, well. All right. Finally, today, I want to talk about the partnership announcement between Disney and McDonald's for Happy Meals. This was a huge thing when I was a kid, and you too, Katie. Oh my word, it's been 10 years. Well, okay, so in May of 2006, after 10 years of Disney-themed Happy Meal toys, they ended their partnership with Ronald McDonald, and so there were no longer toys in Happy Meals that were Disney-themed, which is so sad because they were honestly really good toys, if you ask me. And now they're doing this again. It's a multi-year agreement. It's going to include toys from the Walt Disney Animation Studios, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm. We're getting it all. It's going to start in June with The Incredibles 2. And yeah, it will also bring back the Happy Meal boxes that have like the movie characters and stuff on it. And that just takes me back. It takes me back. I had so many of those toys.
I'm like blanking on any of the actual toys that I had, but like I know that I did. I mean, I definitely remember like Hunchback.
I just mentioned The Incredibles too. I remember the Incredibles toys that they had, and Elastigirl had like stretchy arms and like a stretchy stomach. But yeah, I mean, it was good quality toys. I mean, I could honestly, I remember the Mulan toys. I still have
I do remember
so many
the
of
Mulan
these.
toys.
Yeah. I still have so many of these, and I still have all those. I keep those Mulan toys in the bucket from Mulan at the from the movie theater, like the popcorn bucket.
Aw.
So I hold on to these things. So it's very exciting. I will not be going to McDonald's, I do not think, to get these toys. Sorry, just buy the toys. You don't have to buy the Happy Meals and feed your kids that nasty food. Although my parents did, and I'm kind of like, why? But anyway, it's fine, I guess. I'm still here. Do you eat McDonald's? Ugh.
No. I go there for coffee, and if I have to go there for breakfast, I'll like go for breakfast. But
Yeah,
I don't remember
egg
the last time I
McMuffin.
had like a cheeseburger from McDonald's. But listen, if they get some good Star Wars toys up in there,
Yeah.
I'll be there. And I'm not going to waste the burger. I will eat the burger.
Okay.
That comes with my toy.
Okay. But you can get the toy without the burger, just saying.
But what? But why? But the burger comes with it.
No. It's the other way around, Katie.
Okay, fine.
I've told you this before, but whenever Burger King did all those Star Wars toys, whenever Episode 3 came out, I collected every single one of them. And this summer, I gave them away to someone who's also a Star Wars fan. Sorry, Katie, I should have given them to you, but it's fine.
You should have.
Sorry. But
Fine.
yeah. I mean, they're in a safe home, I do believe. So this person loves Star Wars just as much as you. So.
I doubt that.
Oh, okay. Well, let me get him on the podcast for you. Oh, man. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Diz Connected. Katie, thanks so much for joining me as always.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, be sure to follow mine and Katie's social media links in the description below. And for more Diz Connected content, you can follow at Disney_Connected on Instagram. Until next time, have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon, folks.